The Matthew Dark Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, praise God and welcome in. Well, if you saw this week on Wednesday, COVID-19 reemerged on the public frame, and we saw Dr. Tony Fauci emerge from his lair, and we thought we were going to get some answers to some really specific questions from the Senate. And of course, we didn't get anything close to that. We had the fifth invoked 111 times. Even what color is your tie or the carpet on the floor, he wouldn't give comment to. And so there's nothing that speaks truth like pleading the fifth 111 times. And so this is the self-declared man who said, I am science. When you're criticizing Tony Fauci, you're criticizing science. And so we have his diary as well. And we were able to go through so much of that. What we found was he was obsessed with the fame. He's gawking and awing and who he's meeting and who wants to shake his hand. I don't think you've ever seen a person so confess how much they wanted to be famous. And that's what we found out with Dr. Tony Fauci, as we had 1 million dead Americans, millions injured by his COVID shot, businesses closed, masks on children, schools closed, all of that. And we thought we could get maybe some, what's the rationale behind this? Would you take it back if you could? And we got none of that. And it's very clear COVID is a partisan issue, and it shouldn't be. It attacked all of us, government against people. And now we have the people fighting each other, because as soon as the hearing was over, the Democrats came out and said, thank you, Tony Fauci. If you listen to a Democrat, you would believe Dr. Tony Fauci actually saved mankind with his efforts during COVID-19. Now, we know the consequences are he actually shifted the trajectory of the universe single-handedly in a permanent fashion. I'm not saying he's God, but we've changed and we cannot return to pre-COVID spending, government control, this enthusiasm around shoving vaccines and medications down our people. It was a disgraceful commentary. There should be outrage on both sides. He hurt a lot of people, but just so Democrats are comfortable, nothing will ever happen to Tony Fauci. That I can assure you. Dear friend of the show, Attorney Tom Renz, I know you were all over this the day of. See, for guys like you and I, Tom, we knew what Tony Fauci was doing in live time as it was happening. We know when he rolled out initially and said, you don't need to wear a mask, and then 2 months later, you must wear a mask. We know that when he came out and said this vaccine is 99% effective, and then that number began to dwindle into a CDC declared figure, the COVID shot does not stop transmission. They still won't admit to the magnitude of injuries that we've experienced. I think there's so much going on. Throw a dart in the wall, and there's a major issue in America that must be addressed. But Tom, just bringing you in here now, and thank you so much for doing this, kind of your initial thoughts on his performance, and then is anything going to get addressed post this testimony to Tony Fauci? Welcome in, sir.
Well, thanks for having me, Matthew. And, I mean, as far as my initial thoughts, I mean, he's a criminal and he acted like a criminal. He pled the fifth 111 times because he couldn't talk about the criminal activities he was part of. You don't plead the fifth unless there's something to plead the fifth over. Now, interestingly enough, I would argue that he was legitimately in contempt of Congress. You can't plead the fifth on things that are irrelevant to a crime. All right. So the Fifth Amendment only applies to testimony that may result in some sort of criminal action. There was nothing criminal about some of the questions. I think Ron Johnson said, Fauci, are you going to be willing to voluntarily testify or speak on the record, or do I have to subpoena you? I plead the fifth. Well, you can't plead the fifth. That's a relevant question. It's a reasonable question. There's nothing criminal about that question. There's nothing there. So strategically, he blundered it immensely. I mean, it's just ridiculously. But the real issue, I think, Matthew, that's far more important than his terrible performance at the Senate is the fact that there's not any indication that anybody actually wants real accountability. God bless Rand Paul and Ron Johnson for being, leaders. Bernie Moreno should get a pat on the back. Josh Hawley spoke out pretty well. There are a few guys that really spoke out well. But in terms of going after actual accountability, and this isn't a Rand Paul thing, right? So Rand Paul can't do this. This is a DOJ thing. Listen, Fauci is, in my opinion, part of a continuing ongoing conspiracy to defraud America. The fact that they are still covering up the lies about the COVID vaccines and mRNA in general is manifest. I mean, there's so much evidence of it. And as you look at his diary and some of this other paperwork that's coming out, he's still, I mean, it proves in my mind, beyond any reasonable doubt, that this guy is part of an ongoing conspiracy to defraud the country. We have put these poisons out there, despite the fact that they knew HCQ and ivermectin worked. So we illegally approved this whole mRNA platform. And we did this all based on lies. They've been covering this up for years. So a legitimate prosecution, despite the pardon, could go forward if they wanted to go after Fauci, a RICO case type thing. But they won't do it. And the reason they won't do it isn't because they can't do it. It's because that RICO conspiracy would bring down the mRNA platform and upset the big pharma overlords that control all of Congress. So I don't see any real action coming out of this. They may give them a slap on the wrist for some nonsense, but you know, the crimes against humanity are largely just going unnoticed. They're trying to sweep them under the rug.
Agreed. And speaking to that mRNA technology, we reported on this a couple of weeks ago and got tremendous backlash for it. But this fall, Moderna's flu vaccine will be the first ever mRNA flu vaccine. And so they have to preserve, this is the new cutting edge in medicine. This is going to save lives. This is, of course, no risk to the person. Tony Fauci himself, in his diary, is vaccine injured. Okay, he's had a pulmonary embolism that was hid from us, that was not disclosed to the public. We know that in CDC literature, myocarditis is a potential side effect for teen boys. That should be enough to take the thing off the market immediately. And prior to COVID-19 and these emergency use authorizations, vaccines that hurt 7 people, they didn't even make it to this. This one made it to scale, and they want to pretend like we're just going to skip past this. This was fine. This, you know, we still can't even get conclusion on, did it come from the wet market or did it come from the Wuhan Institute of Virology? I mean, as America, that has to be settled. It's beyond clear that this thing didn't get into a pangolin. It didn't get into a bat and then get consumed at a wet market and then spread throughout the world. When we had gain of function, we had the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, where they produced this thing, shipped it to Wuhan, China, and then released it for mass scale. That has to be, I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a diehard Trump fan. And Trump has a major responsibility in this. Remember, Operation Warp Speed is his sort of key moment in which it brought us the vaccines. It brought us the ventilators at mass scale. And of course, that's how people died in the hospital. Ventilators, morphine, and remdesivir. That hasn't been addressed. And so all this stuff, we can't move forward as a country. We have all these things going back to 9/11, the 2020 election, the Epstein files. We have to deal with these things as Americans. The government is not going to stop shoving this thing down our throat. So how do we get it to turn from Democrats and Republicans to we the people versus you the bureaucrats that are basically killing us and smiling the whole way? What's the unifying message? Because COVID is probably the most hot button topic still on the internet. You mentioned COVID-19, you've got radical responses on both sides. The messaging is consensus. This was not fit for human consumption. It hurt people. It devastated the economy. I mean, don't we have to deal with this, get closure to this, accountability? Because it just keeps going and on, and we never hold anybody accountable, Tom. How do we get this thing addressed as the American people? You will never do that to us again, and those that violated our rights. And another thing before I turn it over to you, what I loved how Fauci kept it reiterating, his rights under the Constitution in the Fifth Amendment. He said that 111 times. There was no mention of our constitutional rights when we were forced to wear a mask, forced to wear a vaccine, forced to stay indoors. Constitution was out the window during COVID. When it comes to his pretty little life here, he's going to invoke constitutional rights. How come a Democrat, how come the average vaccine taker can't see that as saying, okay, because there's no shame. You took the vaccine. You didn't know. I mean, I was in medicine, so we had an advantage of information, but I'm not shaming anybody who signed up and did this. They trusted a doctor. that has to be broken. We have to drop the pride. We made a mistake. Now we're going to make sure it never happens again. I mean, it feels like it's a lost cause because it has to be unified, and it's not even close, Tom.
I mean, there's so many things here. So first of all, in I would say August-ish of September 2022,
Mm-hmm.
around that time, I sent off the report to Rand Paul and a number of other people, elected officials, that showed what Andrew Huff, Pam Popper, myself, and others found, which was that this was absolutely created through gain of function work. This was not, there was no bat, no pangolin. That's nonsense. That's always garbage.
Yes.
This was created with Fauci, with EcoHealth Alliance, with Ralph Baric, with their partners, which include places like the Rockefeller Foundation and the Wellcome Trust and all these billionaire globalist crowds. And it was created through a project done in Wuhan, China, with the CCP. That can only happen if the Treasury Department, if the CIA, if the DOD, and everybody else does their due diligence, because you're not allowed to ship bioweapons development technology or information to Wuhan, China, to a CCP-controlled lab without the blessings of these people. So our CIA was actively involved.
Yes.
They knew. So did our DOD. This is all cover up, and it's all deep state. No question about that, right? So first of all, we start there. Second of all, with regards to the mRNA poison, I mean, we knew, and I just reposted on my X timeline, I think yesterday, a Pfizer document from 2021 that showed that the COVID vaccine actually increased the likelihood of catching COVID. They knew this in 2021. There was no question. We knew that you get the shot, get COVID. I actually did hundreds of interviews where I said, get the shot, get COVID, get the shot, get dead, because that's what's going to happen. There was no question. There was no ambiguity about this. It was manifestly obvious to anyone willing to look at the facts, but no one wanted to look at the facts. So you're right. And then you also mentioned the fact that what about our rights? Right? What about our rights? Anthony Fauci wants to talk about his constitutional rights, protecting the fifth, they're claiming the fifth, all these different things. But I'm relatively sure our rights to breathe clean air without a mask over my face, my right to travel, my right to move, my right to earn a living. So many of my fundamental rights were absolutely destroyed during COVID, but yet we're supposed to worry about his constitutional rights. I personally wouldn't feel all that bad. I mean, we got to preserve the rule of law. So, I mean, I'm only speaking tongue in cheek. I don't actually agree with this. But I mean, how about this? Let's throw Anthony Fauci in jail with no trial. And then, just have a mob discussion about whether we should hang him. I mean, how about that, right? Because he didn't care about our rights, so why do we care about his? Now, of course, I don't believe that's the way to do things, but it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. We're looking, and when we look at this, one of the things that's happening here, and let's make no mistake about the whitewash that is occurring. The goal here is to whitewash this. Yeah, bring Fauci up, crucify him, make him look bad, blame him, make him the patsy. And then maybe we'll give him a perjury or a contempt and, give him a few months in some sort of a cushy prison resort. And then we'll say, oh, we got justice for COVID. And then everybody will move on. That's the goal. They want us to forget about this because they want people to take these mRNA poisons. But I don't think that's going to happen. And the reason I don't think that's going to happen is because the hospitals are full of people with turbo cancer. Our friends, family, and loved ones are still dying. There's still people recovering from the destroyed economy. We're still dealing with the fallout from the election fraud system that was implemented because they claimed they needed it because of this COVID crisis. We're still dealing with all of this, yet they just think they're going to be able to whitewash us and move on. But I think the American people have woken up. I don't think that there's too many of us that are too aware. There needs to be real accountability, and this isn't going away. And crooked Donald Trump, I'm sorry, but on this, he's a crook.
Yes.
I'm one of Trump's biggest supporters. I fought so hard for him. And, him coming out and saying Operation Warp Speed was a success, only if you believe murdering Americans is a success. He was manipulated, he was lied to, and he is surrounded by these crooks like Susie Wiles and these other lobbyists and monsters who, yes, when I first came out about Wiles and her crooked corruption nonsense, I took blowback from everybody. Everybody. I mean, I got attacked everywhere. How could you question the woman running Trump's campaign? How could you do this? Because she's a crook.
Yes.
And I don't care who you are. I'm interested in the truth. It doesn't matter if I like you or dislike you. It doesn't matter what you do. My kids deserve a free future. This woman was a threat to my kids' free future. It's quite clear. And now it's even more clear because guess what? Every single special interest that Susie Wiles is involved with is getting special treatment by this administration. Bayer is a client of both Mercury LLC and Ballard Partners, and yet we have the glyphosate ruling. Pfizer, Gilead, Gavi, all involved with her lobbying efforts. So guess what? Special privileges. Everywhere we look, all you have to do is look at Susie Wiles' lobbying clients, and you can see exactly what's going on. By the way, for the fact checkers, I recognize that she didn't take them directly, but she was a managing partner at Mercury LLC and obviously a stalwart at Ballard. So let's not play stupid here. We all know what's going on. Let's not get into at the end of the day, if you're tied in with her friends, you're making money. If you're not, well, you're going to be put on the outcasted there. So it's just corruption from beginning to end. And, Trump at the end of the day is the boss. It's his job to stop it, and he's not doing it.
He's done a horrific job with COVID-19. He was taken advantage of. And this is what I believe they did to him. They said, listen to us, Donald Trump, you can be the author. You can be the president that saves the world. You got to get behind this vaccine. And they played that massive ego and that massive pride that he has. And he is still proud to it. If you remember during the second campaign, he would mention the COVID shot and boos would ring out. And he shut his mouth. He doesn't speak about it anymore. It's a dirty, dark secret. It's a blight on him. The MAGA voter, though, does not demand accountability to that. They don't demand accountability for the Epstein cover-up. They don't demand accountability for the Iran invasion, which is a mess he can no longer get out of. I mean, I look at Donald Trump's role right now in this mess. He has been given a pass. And how did he get that pass? Well, he was almost assassinated in Butler. He was attacked by the media. Lawfare was coming against him. We felt bad for him. And so but he still do it. He gave up $1 billion life to come be a civil servant. And that's not true. We know he's made $600 million on his meme coin. He's made over $1 billion in his investments over this second term. That's a lot of money. We have a lot of poverty. We have a lot of struggling going on in America right now. It's a very bad look for a president to be enriching himself to that degree. But then to have the lack of humility to come out and say, yeah, we're going to make this a priority. We're going to look at everything. I might have been lied to. I might have been conned by my advisors, and I take accepted responsibility for that. But we're not going to just rub it under the rug and move on. We're going to deal with the devastation that was COVID. And of course, Dr. Fauci basically spelled it out for us in his diary. This was a PR campaign. This was an effort to become famous. This was an effort to make medicine probably more a part of the American average life than ever before. We thank God that this caused so many patriots like yourself that said, no, this is snake oil and we're not going to stand for it. Had we all just done the classic Democrat thing, lined up for the 7 boosters, I don't know where this country would be right now because we would still be living under a COVID mandate. So we are grateful and thankful that that was discerned by enough powerful people that could say, no, we're done here. And we push back, but we have to finish the job. This can't just go. And so we look at things like COVID-19, which brings us to the next issue on Donald Trump's plate. And he has a lot of things going against him. But we mentioned the DOJ, Todd Blanche, they're trying to get him confirmed as the AG. If he is confirmed as the AG, that is the death of the Epstein files. You will never see anything come from the Epstein files. As America, we absolutely have to have clarity, prosecution, death sentences for those involved in the Epstein files. Trump is the #1 advocate to suppress it. Todd Blanche is going to go out and carry that work. Right now, his confirmation hangs on a couple of senators that say, well, you got to do this and this and this, meet with the survivors. There's a federal judge right now. This is, I want your kind of legal perspective here. On July 2nd, federal judge said, no, you must release the remaining redacted files. This is against the Epstein Files Transparency Act. You're in violation of federal law. Turn them over. And that, of course, was rebuked by the DOJ. These are duplicative. There's nothing in there. We're done. And then just on the 28th this week, the judge says, okay, well, then you're going to give them all to me and I will personally review them and go through your answers. And that has not been done yet either. And so, and I know you've talked about this recently too. The Trump team basically has a license to be as lawless and as illegal as they can. They know they're not going to ever get in trouble for this stuff. But as we continue to press, we had the Iran war to distract from the Epstein. Remember, Pam Bondi gave that just disgraceful testimony in mid-February. February 28th, the Iran war starts. The Iran war is not even close to ending. We still have the Strait of Hormuz closed. But this Epstein file issue is not going away. There's a federal judge putting pressure on it. How do we start to move the needle? Donald Trump, you can go blow up every country in the world. That's not going to change the status of the Epstein files. How do you see us progressing there?
Well, I'm going to focus here. I mean, there's so many good things you said there, but I want to I'm going to really focus in on the Epstein files. So Todd Blanche was Trump's attorney and is arguably still his attorney. I don't know what the status of their relationship is, which means that he has a duty, a legal duty to protect Trump's interest. Mm-hmm. He would be conflicted inherently over having anything to do with Epstein if he was DOJ, right? Because you've got a crime on one hand and you have a duty to your client on the other. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files or not. I mean, obviously his name's there, but we don't know, we don't know what exactly he did or not. I'm not getting into whether Trump was a, child rapist or anything like that. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that as attorney, and as an attorney, you have a duty to protect your client's interest. Well, the president doesn't want the Epstein files out for whatever reason. So he had, there's a conflict there. Todd Blanche has demonstrated that he's not doing anything, right? He's not doing the job. I see literally nothing good happening from DOJ. He's been there for how long now? The only thing he's succeeded in doing is covering up the Epstein files, although we'll see what happens there. And, it's a great big nothing burger, right? So at this point now, why are they trying so hard to confirm this guy? Why is it that this guy's the man? Why can't we get someone who's going to do something? I mean, I haven't seen any, real legitimate election fraud cases. I haven't seen anyone, move the needle on, some of these big cases related to deporting illegals. If Trump actually wants to get something done, why does he keep bringing in attorney generals that block getting anything done? And at the end of the day, you got to start asking yourself that question. I mean, we know why Pam Bondi was there because Susie Wiles wanted her there. But, Blanche was a lifelong Democrat. Yeah, he was always on the wrong side of things. And now, Wiles seems to be involved with wanting him to be there too. Honestly, I think that Trump has been manipulated and played, and it's easy to manipulate someone that's arrogant. That's at the end of the day, when you got a big ego, all you got to do, you just tell someone how great they are and it's their idea and you get to manipulate them. And it looks like there's a lot of that going on. It's incredible to me. You mentioned earlier in in the last thing you're saying about the MAGA voter.
Yeah.
Well, here's a news flash. Donald Trump already told me I'm not MAGA. I disagree with him on the Epstein files, so I'm not MAGA. I disagree with the war in Iran, so I'm not MAGA. I disagree with Operation Warp Speed. So, I mean, listen, I reject his MAGA means making America great again. I'm all about making America great again. Here's the question I have for you. How are you going to make America great again if you don't hold elite child rapists accountable for their actions? How are you going to make America great again when you're poisoning our children with an mRNA disease that does nothing, has zero benefits whatsoever, but yet we're still spending $1.24 billion on it, and we know that it despite zero benefits, it has tremendous risks for the health of our children. How do you make America great again when you spend trillions of dollars in a war that has no impact on us whatsoever, and that only around 30% of Americans are okay with? I mean, this is absurd. Even Republicans want to stop the military action, go back to negotiations. Even Republicans, I just saw a poll last night, 48%. Only 48% of Republicans are okay with this. And, we see all these polls. Well, 100% of MAGA supports Trump. That's because Trump defines MAGA. And every time you disagree with him, he says you're not MAGA. So, yeah, the 6 people that are still MAGA all 6 of them do support him. And you can find all 6 of them because they're highly paid influencers on X.
Right.
Outside of that, the American people are gone. The coalition that got him elected is dead.
Yes.
I mean, Maha doesn't support this administration anymore. And if anybody understands that space, it's me.
Yes.
The young people don't support him. The young people don't disagree with Israel's handling of Palestine and all these other things, and they don't agree with this war. Basically, this coalition of people that fought to make America first and to get justice and accountability to the swamp, they're all done. And so you're going to go into this election and you have a competition between communist leftist nutbag Democrats who, I mean, I saw the guy in Maine that they're running now. They got rid of the one guy. Apparently this guy's married to his cousin. I mean, that's no joke. He's got 2 kids with his cousin, from my understanding. Now, I don't know if it's a full cousin or a 10th cousin or whatever, but Jesus, really?
Yeah.
And then you got, the squad. I mean, look at the Democrats. They're nuts. They're absolutely nuts. But yeah, they're winning. And the reason that they're winning is because even though people know that the Democrats are the worst thing ever, they prefer the worst thing ever over someone who keeps stabbing them in the back. The Republicans are just liars. They're just sellouts. Not all of them. Like I said, you got Moreno, you had Tom Massey, but Trump and his allies decided to get rid of him. You have Warren Davidson, you have Ron Johnson up there. You got a few people that are doing things, but what you don't have is any sort of true Republican Party that's actually representing the will of the people. That's represented by, I mean, think about this. We have enough people to get Blanche confirmed if we really wanted to. The real reason we can't is because the Republicans don't have the will to do it. And, you're just not going to get there. And by the way, I know we don't actually have enough Republicans. It's close, but the Republican holdouts are the problem, right? I mean, we could potentially gather enough push to get him confirmed, but the Republican holdouts. But the interesting thing is they're not holding out because they care about the Epstein files. They're not holding out because they care about mRNA. They're holding out because they hate Trump. Yes. I mean, and that's where it is.
It's exactly where it is. It shows Republicans having control means nothing. They've got the Supreme Court, both sides of the government, the White House, and I really can't find or put a finger on where did we move the needle for the American people in this second term. We closed the border mostly. It's about 94% closed. You would spend a lifetime trying to find the next thing that we did for the American people. And in fact, it feels more like Trump switched teams during this second term than it does push our agenda forward. And what did Americans want? We wanted justice to the corruption. We had USAID fraud and stealing all the money, sending it all over the world. We had to have closure on that. We had to button that up. We had to have justice on the Epstein files. We had to have relief on inflation. And I ask, and everybody thinks I'm a Democrat when we put out stuff that questions maybe this isn't the best for America, because that's where we're at in America. If you don't co-sign every single thing out of Donald Trump's mouth, you're a Democrat. You're anti-American. These people on the left, though, could care less about Americans. So we actually are primed right now, and I'm praying that this can come together. This is third-party time. We have to have. Now, we can't be over here where we're mutilating children, and we can't be over here where we're co-signing everything that the establishment says. It's primed for the taking in 2028. Trump has actually personally guaranteed a switch in November. So there's no way Republicans can hang on to this tiny margins come November. You just mentioned it, 48%. I would argue that half of MAGA is gone, never to return. Trump needed every single one of us with blinders on, voting for him, down ballot. And the moment he started playing games with the Epstein files, he lost 20%. The moment he went to Iran war to cover up the Epstein files, he lost another 20%. So you're telling me Republicans can go into November with, I don't know, a third of the support that they need and come out victorious? So they can criticize Democrats all they want. You can, Maha voters, you can personally thank Donald Trump for why you will have Democrats now in control. And we know what happens, Tom, in November or January when a Democrat House takes over. Trump will be impeached on day one. There is no doubt about that, like he was his first term. They will bring charges. Go ahead.
But, let's not overlook one really, really critical factor. Okay. The primaries led to all rhinos across the board. We have very few real Republicans running. And if you believe that voter fraud has existed, well, do you really think the Republicans don't participate in it? Guess who owns Dominion now?
Right.
The Republicans own Dominion now. Now, why won't the Republicans pass any voter fraud reform? Right. I mean, they're in charge.
They're using it too.
They claim for years the Democrats have a voter fraud machine, voter fraud. So they buy Dominion, they take control. They're all over the place, and then they don't change anything. Well, if they aren't changing anything, and there was a giant voter fraud machine, and now they're in control, who's going to commit voter fraud? And so let's see what happens. And I'll be real. The only thing more interesting to me than whether or not the Republicans are able to hold on to control, which can only be done with voter fraud, is how the Democrats react to it, because the Democrats built the machine. So, I mean, this fall is going to be an absolute joke, regardless of what happens. And I don't know what's going to happen because, if the Republicans win, it's probably the same voter fraud machine that led to the Democrat victories. If they lose, well, then the kind of mess we're going to have with a Democrat-controlled House or Senate. And if it's in either event, the Democrats' reaction is going to be a really important thing, because what are they going to do if they lose? Are they going to scream voter fraud? Right. Because I'd love to see them do that. But, yes. I guess we'll see what happens. It's going to be a clown show this fall.
That's a great point, because you got two corrupt people, one in control, so we get to use the scam. But when we're back in control, we're going to use it. You can't really call each other out. It's kind of like the Epstein files, because when we speak to and put out material on the Epstein files, what I hear from the baby boomer MAGA voter all the time is, well, Joe Biden had these for 4 years, and if Trump was in them, he would have released him. But the problem is, it's not just Donald Trump in the Epstein files. It's one big, there is no way any Congress, any DOJ will be able to find only Donald Trump participated in it. You can't do it. We've got hundreds of bad players that all need prosecution and an eventual noose around their neck. And so they're not going to spill those beans either, even if Trump is in there. And why would Democrats mess with Donald Trump at this point? He's playing along. He's doing a great job on the cover up. Let him be. He's digging his own grave. You come in and knock him out. We absolutely believe voter mail-in fraud in Kentucky for Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie was winning his elections in the 75, 80% in the 14 years prior, and then he gets slaughtered. Why? He wanted accountability on Epstein and no foreign aid. And all of a sudden, that's not a MAGA thing. That's not an America First thing. So we know you had to get into it. The average, what in the world does AIPAC and Miriam Adelson have to do with the 4th District in Kentucky? Nothing. But it had an enormous impact on the trajectory of where Congress was going. So it's an absolute shame. Our guest is attorney Tom Renz. We're moving through so many things. Like we said at the beginning, I really believe that when Donald Trump took over this second term, it's like peace and order and common sense was just going to break out all over the country. And this is going to be like, what are we going to talk about? Just talk about how good of a life we're having. And it's been the exact opposite of that. I'm looking at my papers here. I mean, Charlie Kirk, Iran war, Dr. Fauci, the Iran thing. You talked a little bit about the glyphosate. That went under the radar for most folks. What the Supreme Court ruled, that you can't sue on failure to warn. And then the FDA, CDC says, well, no, these products don't cause cancer anyways. And then they can't be sued if you fail to warn that it could cause cancer. That's the same as the 1986 Vaccine Immunity Act. That's an untouchable entity now. And we know it's hurting our people. It's cancer. And it's also the reason that we have this endocrinology disorder, lowering testosterones. We have girls entering puberty much sooner. These are all inputs coming from, and of course, God bless RFK. He has been a leader in that work for so long. But his hands are tied. Obviously, he doesn't want pesticides on our food. I think if it was just up to RFK, he would say, let's have organic food, no food dye. Let's just be as clean as possible. Is everybody on board with that? Let's do the best for our children and health long term. And he can't do those things. And you don't really have a body above him that believes in Maha, believes in this, let's care about our people first and profits later. There's so much going on that none of it looks to be getting addressed. And we're so busy as Americans. We're so taxed out financially. We have so many activities. We have so much freedom. We have this bombardment of news. We don't stop and address these issues as they come to us. And so they just get buried. You know, I don't know if you've seen, but 9/11 is making a comeback in the news, on the social medias. It's coming back. I'm so sorry. If you look at the Twin Towers and Building 7 falling down and believe the government narrative on how that happened, we have to get you assessed. We need either a mental health exam, or we need an IQ test. We need something. That can't happen. So we didn't address that at the time, but we have all the technology, the cameras, the social media, the independent journalism now. And that's why we're getting ahead of COVID earlier, just 6 years ago, and we're on them. And so this is how it has to move, because what the government has shown is that they're going to do what they do, and you just better get out of the way or comply. But there's no stopping them until we, just as Americans, are saying, well, we're locked arms. We now understand that Democrats and Republicans are the same. It's the toxic swamp government that's against all of us. Do you even see a scenario where the American people realize we're the victim? I don't care if you like blue hair and this stuff. We're all on the same team against them. Do you think we're even close to that kind of sentiment as Americans, or are we just going to actually get further divided and more hostile and more degrading of the country?
I'm an eternal optimist. I know I talk about bad things frequently, and there's a lot of bad out there. But at the end of the day, if there was no reason to fight, if the war was over, then why would I keep fighting? Right. And I keep fighting every day because I don't believe it's over. One of the things that happened, and I'm very proud, Matthew, of the work that I did during COVID. Yes. I'm not widely credited with a lot of the stuff, but basically I led the fight on that. Yes. Yes. I mean, legally, I was the first guy out the door to do anything. I trained a ton of lawyers. I did a ton of things. At the end of the day, the fight in COVID was the one that I led, and of course there were a ton of great doctors and people who made it possible, and I couldn't have did it without standing on the shoulders of giants. But absolutely, I did a lot there. I was very proud of it. Yeah. And the thing about that is, I'm probably more proud of that than Trump is of Operation Warp Speed, because at the end of the day, I wasn't murdering people. Right. But here's the thing. When we did that, one of the things that we were very successful in accomplishing was bringing together people, right? It didn't matter if you were right or left. It didn't matter where you were. And Maha as a movement is not Democrat or Republican. Right. Maha as a movement are people who believe in health. And because they've been lied to, these are largely people who have woken up and who've realized, hey, I've been lied to about everything related to my health my whole life. I can't just take someone's word for it. So these are people who don't just trust the narrative. It doesn't matter whether it's a left or right narrative, they don't trust it. And so there were a tremendous number of people. And one of the things that we did, and this is really one of the things that I was very, very proud of, is when we started doing this, I was finding things and I was breaking news that was globally viral on a weekly basis. Right? I mean, it was huge. And I didn't even have social media, and it was still viral. Right?
Yeah.
And what we did was we actually worked with a lot of our friends. We did a ton of podcasts and people who were small. Everybody's like, well, why aren't you here? Why aren't you there? Well, the mainstream won't cover me. And you know what? Let's build up people who actually want to cover truth. So we didn't bother with the mainstream. I didn't bother wasting my time fighting with the leftists on the mainstream who were owned by Big Pharma and who I knew were just going to lie about what we were saying. We took it right to the people, and we did it through podcasts and through people who were willing to tell the truth. And a lot of those guys were small. I have one of my favorite stories is I had a friend, some wonderful friends of mine, people I truly love. First time I was on their podcast, they were getting about 1,000 views a month. And we would, break huge news on them, and we would help them. And it wasn't just me; they'd also did a great job. They were incredible podcasters. But by the time we got done, I mean, they're over 20 million views a month now.
Awesome.
They're huge. But we did this. We had a lot of people that we tried to help, and that helped us, and it was mutual. It wasn't one way or another. So we're breaking news, we're getting it out there. But this matters because what happened is millions of people realized you can't go to mainstream if you want truth. You have to do your own homework. There are true alternative narratives, and they aren't narratives, they're facts. We presented facts. What you got in the mainstream was a narrative. Our facts were just what they were, and we brought them out there, and they were inarguable. And to this day, if you look at Fauci's diary basically reads as a confirmation of everything that I said. I mean,
Right.
it's like the number of things that he admitted to in his diary that I put out in 2020 in lawsuits
Yeah.
it's remarkable because we knew the truth. So we've been vindicated in a lot of ways. We have to do some work to make sure it's out there, uh, and it's profoundly important to understand that. So when you say, "Can we come together?" Well, we
Yeah.
did come together. Now, it isn't everybody, and there's a lot of people. I mean, let's look at the SPLC case, the Southern Poverty Law Center, right?
Yeah.
So we see now that the Southern Poverty Law Center, who's out there talking about hate groups, was actually funding Nazis
Yes.
and the Ku Klux Klan so that they could try and act like there was a problem. Nobody likes Nazis or the Klan. If you're a nutbag if you're into that
Yes.
stuff. But the Southern Poverty Law Center likes them because they need them so that they can make more money. So they funded them. It's insane. There are people who make money off of division, hate, and lies.
Hmm.
Then there are people like us who lose money because we try and tell the
True.
truth.
Yes.
But we're not going to abandon it because it's the right thing to do. As long as we keep doing that, there will be some burning embers of truth, and those burning embers of truth tend to create fires that spread. It's really an amazing thing to see the way that a little bit of truth, a little ember of truth, can ignite a huge forest fire that shifts everything. We use that principle over and over and over again during COVID. They tried to fact check me. They tried to lie about me. They tried to go after me. They essentially threatened to blackmail me. They tried to do everything they could do, except there's nothing they could blackmail me on because I don't care. Yeah. I mean, they went everything, the death threats, the buy-off attempts, but we just stuck to the truth.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just me, it was thousands of other people. And because of that, though, we were able to ignite that huge forest fire. And it led to where we are today, where listen, if you believe the numbers, the worst case numbers, 20% of Americans got 0 shots, right?
Yes.
But 20% is over 60 million people.
Hmm.
That's a
Yeah.
lot of people. A lot of
Yes.
people who are an active voting bloc, who are activists, who will fight because they lost friends, they lost family, they lost loved ones. They already showed that they are willing to fight. We have at least 60 million Americans that are willing to take a stand,
Yes.
and many, many more beyond that, because now they're watching. They regretted getting that shot. They're dealing with cancer. They're dealing with this. They're dealing with that. So did we? Yeah. Is it hopeless? No, it's not hopeless. Are there people trying to divide us? Yes. But I don't think at the end of the day it's going to work. I think that those of us uniting behind the truth are going to end up coming together.
That's well said, Tom. The truth wins, and the truth can be contagious. The other side of it, the truth can be painful. So if you are a part of that 80% that got so scared to death, because let's face it, the vaccine takers in the early rollout, they did that out of fear. They didn't have a place to, and I look at I think of it as a gift from God to have that initial discernment on this is not right. I mean, I'm so grateful to have never recognized this as a remedy and was able to be an advocate versus now having to deal with, holy cow, how did I give my kids that? What have I done? That's a tough place for a parent to be in if they might have wrecked their child's life because they were so scared themselves, right?
Yeah, well, it's a very tough thing, and I feel bad for a lot of people.
Me too.
It's the reason for so much of the cognitive dissonance. They just can't look at what they did.
Yeah.
You risked your child's life. You may have killed your child.
Yeah.
You've likely shortened their lifespan, and you may have ended up killing them young. That's a hard reality to look at because a lot of them did it precisely because they thought they were saving their child.
Yeah.
But, the use of fear as a public health tool is widely viewed as unethical, but it's something that's actually well studied. There are tons. If you actually study public health and you review the peer-reviewed literature, there's a ton of stuff about the idea of using fear as a tool to manipulate and to control public health. And it's an evil, horrible thing, but they followed that playbook to the T. That's what COVID was.
Yeah.
It was the use of a manipulative tool to result in a public health outcome that they sought to achieve, except for it wasn't actually related to good public health. It was related to poisoning people and creating lifelong clients for Big Pharma. That is precisely what they did, right? And so we're at a point now where, it just, I'm kind of past, and this is partially just me as a human, because I'm a lawyer, I'm an advocate, but unfortunately I'm still human, and I've for 6 years have been fighting for this, and talking to people about this, and we were right 5 years ago, we were right 6 years ago. I'm kind of past the point. I was telling you, I'm so sorry that you did this, and I wish you knew better. This, that, and other. Listen, you done screwed up. I'm sorry to be so harsh, but you done screwed up. You got hosed.
Yes.
What are you doing to fix it now? And don't tell me I can't do anything. Don't tell me. Are you liking? Are you following? Are you sharing? For the guys that got screwed over, that are, they're helping. They're out there. They're advocating. They're pushing for change. Okay, for those guys, yeah, I feel real bad that they deal with it, and thank them for coming around. For the guys that are saying, well, I can't do anything. Yeah, I got screwed, but there's nothing I can do about it.
Right.
Well, you know what? You're right, and you deserve it. Get your ass up and do something to try and help fix the problem. Quit telling me that there's nothing you can do. Does it take much to like, follow, and share?
No.
Is that really all that difficult? Does it take much to share this show when we're done? Does it take much to, yeah, I'm trying to do influencer. I want to influence. I'm trying to influence you into doing something because we need your help. It's freedom. So for the people that aren't doing anything, well, I don't care. I mean, I care. I'm sorry. I'm sorry when you have to watch your kids develop turbo cancer or, go down with a heart attack on the soccer field. But, you don't care enough to do anything about it. So, I don't know what you want me to say.
What we're doing to that person, because they actually hold the key to breakthrough in this. We need your testimony. We need you to drop the pride and say, I was, or my child was perfectly healthy. And ever since we took the COVID shot, we've had health consequence. We need that testimony because you can only say they're a quack 10 times, 20 times, 1,000,000 times. You got 1,000,000 nutbags out there that said they were healthy. They took a vaccine and now they're not. No. It's now beginning to turn. We need those testimonies out there in the public. And that's why you just say, I screwed up. And you know what? There's grace around that. When I come to the Lord and say, I screwed up, and I'm going to screw up again later today, Tom, and I'm going to have to repent and ask for forgiveness. That's all we're talking about. There's too much pride in America. Who cares? We got suckered. I've done some really stupid things financially, relationally, impulsively. And I regret those. And I need to repent and turn on those. That's all we're asking. There's no shame. In fact, there's medical treatment and then giving the gift to another person listening that says, wow, that changed the course of my decision making. This was a normal family like ours. They thought they were doing the right thing, and their family's never been the same ever since they did it. That has to be shared. So we're encouraging whistleblowers, the injured, those who've had their families destroyed as a result of bad government medicine. I mean, people still won't even acknowledge, and you know this intimately. This is a part of your groundbreaking work at the beginning. Every shot you took, every COVID-19 shot you took, was produced by the Department of Defense. They made it, they licensed it to Pfizer. And I just wonder that person, if they would have actually slapped a Department of Defense label on your COVID shot, would you have showed up and take your free government shot? Of course not. But they packaged it up, and Albert Bourla and Pfizer and the world's greatest scientists all came together in 9 months and made a safe and effective vaccine that's going to save you and your family. And you bought that story because you made that decision out of fear. I will testify, I have never made a good decision while in fear. In fact, I make the worst decisions while in fear. Fear is to be given to the Lord. The Lord Jesus Christ says, fear nothing but God. That's the only fear that we're really allowed to have as Christians. Everything else is from Satan, and he plays on that, and we make terrible decisions. Tom, I want to get your thoughts before we close. Great stuff, and I commend you. I mean, the film Died Suddenly, of course, where you're testifying to Ron Johnson and telling him, these are the injuries that are happening to our service members. And I think everybody should go watch the film Died Suddenly. It is so revealing. It shows the white fibrous clots that are growing inside of people. These were the morticians, the embalmers that were discovering these. Of course, no autopsies during COVID. We could do 10 hours on COVID right now. I mean, there is so much there. And now it's even like easier because now it's mainstream. But God bless your work there and your pioneer and your advocacy and your bravery. And that to me is the spirit of 1776. You know, it's all on the line to save or make this great country. So we thank you for that. But I want to talk about this Iran war before we close here, because to me, this one feels like a forever war. It's costing almost $2 billion a day. We get basically another lie around it. You know, the marching, the bell, the cow whistle, the cowbell, the dog whistle is Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. All right. And Marco Rubio, of course, said the day after the invasion, February 28th, March 1st, that Israel was about to attack Iran, and the U.S. jumped the shark and attacked Iran so that our assets and resources in the Middle East wouldn't be. That's what he said initially. So it was Israel instigating. We jumped in so that we could, counter the threat. Donald Trump says it all the time. Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. That's the cry out to the MAGA baby boomer voter that says, of course I support the war. Iran was going to blow up the United States any day. They're telling us that they had nuclear capabilities days, weeks away. Benjamin Netanyahu has been saying for 30 years, Iran is like tomorrow, they could have a nuclear weapon. And of course, Tulsi Gabbard, Joe Kent, NSA, all said there's no nuclear abilities right now. There's no signs that they are developing those or even close to those. So we've been lied to about it. It's costing a tremendous fortune. We are absolutely losing soldiers and resources that are just being wasted over there. Trump has said over 40 times that there's a peace deal on the table. It's about to get signed. We're right there on the cusp. And in fact, the war is it's escalating, not de-escalating. The Strait of Hormuz used to have 90 to 100 ships a day come through it. Less than 10 are traveling. 20% of the world's energy goes through there. The Trump team, the White House, Department of War will tell us that's okay because we've got Venezuelan oil, 1 million a day, thinking somehow that will make up for the 20 million a day that goes through the Strait of Hormuz. He did it because we had Epstein in the news. He did it for Israel. I don't believe it's in Trump's heart to want to do this. And he's said the other day, we're going to give them a beating, effing this. And, he used the terrible language on Easter. We're going to wipe them all out. I mean, I think the sad reality on the Iran war is that it has to end either in complete shame for the United States or the complete annihilation of Iran. I mean, they said they chant death to America before this happened. And we killed the Ayatollah. We killed the schoolgirls. Do you think the spirit of their feelings towards America changed or got better? Of course not. If they hated us before, they hate us with a certain passion now. He's in a really tough spot. Part of me feels bad. Part of me says, you knew better. You the one that took the bait. How do you see this playing out? Because it to me feels like it's going to be the end of Republicans for some time. If you're supporting this war, you're really supporting a worthless cause. I mean, a zero net benefit. Can he get out of this thing and still save face and still preserve something into November? What do you think?
Nope. I think I'm going to use the same language that I used during COVID because it applies. If someone lies to you, when should you trust them? When do you trust a liar? Right. And he told us last year that he destroyed their nuclear program. There's no chance of it rebuilding, and it was done for 20 years.
Right.
Then he tells me that we're going back to war to destroy their nuclear program. Well, which one is it, right? And this isn't something that's pro or against Trump, but just fact, but just
Yeah.
reality. That's what he said. So one of those two statements was a lie. I don't know which one.
Right.
Don't care which one. At the end of the day, I don't trust someone who lies to me, and they keep lying to me. And yes, Donald Trump is lying. He's either lying or too incompetent to know the truth when he speaks. And neither one's a good look for a president.
Right.
The reality here is this: Donald Trump told us that he destroyed the nuclear program. He then, about a year later, decided to start a war with a country that we cannot win unless we
Correct.
decide to turn the entire country into a bead of glass. Unless we literally destroy that entire civilization and kill all however many million of people live there, there is no chance because they've studied us. They're brilliant. They've been very smart about this. They've built their bunkers. They built their military underground. There's nothing that we can do to destroy their leadership. We could destroy the whole country, but not their leadership. And further, it doesn't really matter how much of their infrastructure we destroy. China's still supplying them with weapons. We're fighting a proxy war with China. We can't win this. Not without, listen, when China and Russia become involved, the only way for us to win this is if we were willing to lose millions of American soldiers, boots on the ground. And everybody knows that's not going to work. Now there's rumors, there's talk about the draft here, but you can already see how well that's being received, because if they try and send American boys via draft over to die in Israel's war, we will have civil unrest in this country, and Republicans and Democrats will unite on that issue, and they should. You will see the greatest backlash against Israel and the American government in history if they do that. It will be every bit as bad as COVID, if not worse, because the people are still mad about COVID. So at the end of the day, I don't trust anything they're saying. They lied to us. They've lied to us repeatedly. They keep telling us, oh, it's going great. But then we find out a month or two later that there's dead servicemen here, dead servicemen there, the deaths and casualties and all these different things. They keep lying. So I don't trust them. And I'm not going to trust them because they're liars. And the only thing we can do, short of essentially creating a borderline civil war in this country because we draft people and send their kids to die there, is for us to just walk away, the walk of shame. I mean, we're going to walk away with our tail between our legs. We're going to have empowered the Iranian government. They're going to be the guys that beat the American superpower. And, at that point, where does that leave us? This whole thing, when this started, I said, I think Trump was manipulated into this, and I think he was too stupid to see it. I stand behind that. I think someone told him, hey, you know how we just absolutely crushed Venezuela? We took over the country in 5 minutes. We're going to do the same thing with Iran. And so what did they do? They went in, they immediately blew up and took out the leadership. They were very successful in that. They're gone immediately. But they didn't consider the fact, and anyone that's ever started Iran would know, hey, that ain't going to shut it down. They've been contingency planning for decades. Trust me, it ain't going to work that way over there. This isn't Venezuela. This is Iran. And it was very predictable that it wouldn't work. But, like I said, I don't think his advisors told him the truth, because you got people like Susie Wiles there whose job it is to lie to him. And at the end of the day, I take the very unpopular position that Trump's arrogance and sometimes ignorance make him very manipulable, and that Wiles and True were put around him to do just that. And I think it's worked very well. Despite that, we're past the point I can make excuses. And I'm just no longer okay with it.
Very well said. Yeah, you want a real January 6th? Institute the draft and see what happens. That will spark it overnight.
You'll see a J6 then.
Absolutely.
But it'll be real. It'll be real. There will be insurrection.
It'll be insurrection, and you'll probably have no less than 5-10 million people willing to participate in that. I know it reminds me of Vietnam, where we're on
10.
TV times 10 times way more deaths would occur. Of course, 92 million people in Iran, a 5,000-year-old civilization. When you think about, we're 250 years old. That's nothing.
Yeah,
Iran has babies. And this empire, though, needs a major course correction to last another 250 years. We have not put in the infrastructure. We don't have the trust and buy-in. I don't think if you had a 9/11 today, you would not get that unified rally of America's bond together, go get the terrorists. That doesn't exist anymore. That's very dangerous. No.
We wouldn't believe it.
Exactly.
If there was a real 9/11, not one where they blow up a building, using charges.
Yes.
But if there was a real 9/11 today, no one would believe it.
That's right.
And that's just where we are.
We'd say it's CIA, FBI, Mossad.
And we'd probably be right.
Yep.
We'd probably be right. I mean,
probably
it was the
right.
first time. I mean, anybody, I was in DC on 9/11. And for a long time, I believed the narrative.
Right.
But now I look at the charges and I look at, I look at Building 7 especially.
Yes.
I mean, Building 7 is, why does a random building just fall over for no reason straight down? It's not like the building fell because, the main trade centers fell into it and it tipped over. No. It fell straight down. I mean, the whole thing is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Yeah. And we just took it at face value. But luckily, one of the things that I'm probably proudest of is this. Our founding fathers said the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. We were not being vigilant. I thought I was being vigilant most of my life, and I had no idea about pharma. I had no idea about 9/11. I had no idea about any of these things. COVID came around. We found the laws. We found the truth. We found what was going on behind the scenes. And I was very proud of the fact because I feel like I was pretty instrumental in getting people to see that. And so now we do ask questions. Yep. Now we know if the government says it, start out by assuming it's a lie.
Yes.
And then if you can confirm that it's true, that's okay. But let's assume it's a lie first, because almost everything is. And that's really the right mindset, because if we aren't vigilant, our freedom goes. And trusting people who are in power to maintain their to take action that's going to undermine their current power is absurd. They're going to go to the power. They're going to try and preserve the power. They're going to try and maintain the status quo in every event. And so they're going to lie. They're going to cheat. They're going to steal. That's the nature of power. We the people are now starting to ask questions and starting to wake up to the fact that there is only one true power in this universe, and that's God. God is the power. God is the guy we follow. Every man, woman, and child, myself included, especially myself. I mean, I'm a lawyer. We all fall short. We all fall short. And so, as long as we know that, we can fight and preserve our freedom. But we got a lot of people that we still have to wake up to it.
It's well said. I appreciate your fight. Tom, tell us all the places people can connect with you, follow you, support this work. Where can we direct them?
Well, of course, we're on social media. I'm going to do a little blurb on that. So, at Renz Tom on X, is a pretty big platform, but X is suppressing me so badly. Anybody that thinks that Musk is a free speech thing, remember, he said we have freedom of speech, and we do, and I'm grateful for that, but we don't have freedom of reach. I am so suppressed. You almost have to turn on an alert to get my tweets, because you won't get them. So if you subscribe or if you get an alert, then you can actually see what I'm doing. But if you don't, expect to not see much. We're actually getting much better reach on Instagram and Facebook right now, despite the fact that we have, smaller accounts because we just started them. Yeah. But Attorney Tom Renz on Instagram, The Tom Renz Show on Facebook, tomrenz.substack.com. We post our shows, and Rumble, really. Rumble, we do our daily show. You can see that there. So you can find us everywhere. TomRenz.com, of course. What you have to type, you still can't find me. Google still censors me. But we're still very disfavored. So that's the thing. But we're all over the place. We're going to keep telling the truth, even when it makes people mad, because the truth doesn't really care about your emotions. It just cares about being what it is. And I also want to plug you, Matthew, because the Matthew Dark Show. Make sure you guys are supporting Matthew.
Thank you.
He's been out here fighting. He's been out here pushing to tell the truth. We need people who are talking about the religious implications of what's going on in this world, who are looking at it through a Christ-centered view. We need these sorts of things. And, I congratulate you, Matthew, for having the courage to stay to the truth and to stay there. So I hope people are supporting you. Please like, share, and comment on the show. Get it involved. If you want to help these shows grow, if you want to help Matthew's show grow, if you want to help my show grow, you got to get involved. You got to comment on it. You got to like it. Because the social media platforms are looking for engagement, not just views. Exactly. That helps us to grow. So please get engaged. Support the people that are fighting for you and they're willing to stand for the truth. Because I'm going to tell you right now, the only way to make money in this business is to lie. If you take a side, whatever side you take will pay you, but they'll expect you to push their narrative, and that's always a lie.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. That's beautifully said. And I just would encourage people, try the truth. It feels pretty good once you get used to it. And you'll say, I need more of it. And Christ came, he is the truth. He came to seek the truth, to deliver the truth. And so we have to apply that to all of our affairs. I can't say I'm a great steward of the Lord. I'm a Christian walking with the Lord. And then I accept just this government trash coming down our throat. We are just seeking the truth, no matter how painful. Men like yourself in this movement is the reason we're doing this. So I thank you for it, Tom. We're going to get you all the links in and connect with you. And folks, do this until next time. Serve the Lord Jesus Christ. Tell a friend about him. Stay good. God bless everybody.
The Matthew Dark Show, your one-stop show for truth, courage, fellowship, and faith. Available everywhere you get your podcasts.